close your eyes for a moment. Forget everything you know about the modern world. No smartphones buzzing in your pocket. No grocery stores stocked with endless food. No walls protecting you from the night. No medicine to heal your wounds. Now, open them to a world that would terrify you. The sun rises over the Great Rift Valley in East Africa, painting the endless savanna in shades of gold and amber. But this isn't the peaceful sunrise you might imagine. This is the beginning of another day in humanity's greatest battle, the fight to simply exist. In a small cluster of rocks and crude shelters made from branches and animal hides, something stirs. These aren't the humans you'd recognize today. They're shorter, more muscular, with prominent brow ridges that cast deep shadows over their dark eyes. Their skin is weathered by constant exposure to the elements, their hands scarred from making tools and fighting for their lives. Meet Homo erectus, your ancestors from nearly 2 million years ago. And right now, as the first rays of sunlight pierce the African morning, they're waking up to face what might be their last day alive. You see, every single morning back then began the same way. Not with an alarm clock, but with the primal instinct of survival kicking in. Before their eyes fully opened, their ears were already scanning for danger. The rustle of grass that might signal a stalking predator. The distant roar that could mean death was hunting nearby. The absence of bird songs that warned of something deadly moving through their territory. This wasn't paranoia. This was reality. The world our ancestors inherited was nothing like the one that came before. For millions of years, their predecessors had lived safely in the trees, swinging from branch to branch, protected by the forest canopy. But the climate was changing. Africa was drying out. Those protective forests were shrinking, replaced by vast open savannas where there was nowhere to hide. Imagine being forced out of your secure home into a neighborhood where every shadow could contain something that wanted to kill you. That's exactly what happened to early humans. They were refugees in their own homeland, displaced by forces beyond their control, struggling to adapt to a world that seemed designed to destroy them. And what a world it was! Picture the most dangerous place on Earth today, then multiply that terror by 100. Saber-toothed cats the size of modern lions prowled these grasslands, their 8-inch fangs capable of crushing bone with a single bite. Massive hyenas, larger and more powerful than any alive today, hunted in coordinated packs. Ancient crocodiles lurked in every water source, growing to lengths that would make modern crocodiles look like house pets. But it wasn't just the predators. The Earth itself was trying to kill them. Volcanic eruptions could bury entire regions in ash without warning. Earthquakes split the ground beneath their feet. Droughts lasted for years, turning once reliable water sources into cracked mud. Flash floods could sweep away everything they built in minutes. In this hellscape, a small family group huddles together as the morning light reveals their modest camp. 8 souls, men, women, and children, bound together by something more powerful than blood. Bound together by the absolute necessity of cooperation. Because alone, each of them would die within days. Together, they had a chance. Look at their faces. These aren't the confused, primitive brutes that old movies might have shown you. Their eyes hold intelligence, calculation, and something else, an unbreakable determination. They're making split-second decisions that will determine whether they live or die. Where to find water, how to avoid predators, when to run and when to fight. They communicate, but not with words as we know them. Watch their hands gesture toward the horizon. Listen to the subtle changes in their grunts and calls. See how they touch each other's shoulders, conveying complex messages through body language that took our species millions of years to develop. They're telling each other about the tracks they found yesterday, the strange sounds they heard in the night, the scent of something dangerous on the morning wind, and those tools scattered around their camp. They represent one of the most important revolutions in the history of life on Earth. These aren't just rocks they picked up, they're carefully crafted instruments of survival. Each stone has been shaped by countless strikes, creating sharp edges that can cut through hide, crack open bones, and defend against attackers. Think about that for a moment. While other animals relied purely on their natural weapons, claws, fangs, strength, early humans looked at a simple rock and saw a possibility. They saw a knife, a hammer, a weapon. They were reshaping the world around them to match their needs, one stone at a time. But as our small group begins their daily routine, checking their simple tools and scanning the horizon for threats, something is wrong. The water source they've relied on for weeks, a small stream that meandered through the rocks nearby, has vanished. The rains haven't come. The stream bed is nothing but cracked earth and scattered stones. Water, the most basic need for life. And it's gone. You can see the concern in their faces as they gather around the dry stream bed. Watch how they communicate their worry, their fear, their desperation. One of the older males kneels down, touching the dried mud, reading the story written in the earth. How long has it been dry? Is there any hope it might return? This isn't just an inconvenience. This is a death sentence if they can't find another source. An adult human can survive perhaps 3 days without water in this heat. Children, bless. And every moment spent searching for water is a moment they're not gathering food, not making tools, not preparing for the dangers that night will bring. But they don't panic. They can't afford to. Panic means death. Instead, they're making calculations, forming plans. One group will head toward the distant hills where they remember seeing green vegetation. Another will follow the dry stream bed, hoping to find where it connects to a larger water source. The rest will stay with the young and old, preparing to move the entire camp if necessary. This is the moment when you realize something profound about your ancestors. They weren't just surviving day to day through luck or instinct. They were thinking, planning, strategizing. They were becoming human. As they prepare to split up for their desperate search, one of the group makes a discovery that changes everything. Fresh tracks in the soft earth near their camp. Large, round paw prints with the distinctive marks of retractable claws. Predator tracks. And they're recent. The group freezes. Every sense goes on high alert. Their eyes scan the surrounding grassland, looking for movement in the tall grass. Their ears strain for the slightest sound. Their nostrils flare, searching for the scent of danger. Because somewhere out there, in the golden morning light of ancient Africa, something is hunting them. Something that sees these early humans not as the ancestors of a species that will one day dominate the earth, but as prey. As their next meal. The sun climbs higher in the sky, but the day that began with the simple hope of finding water has now become something far more dangerous. Our ancestors face a choice that will determine not just their survival, but the survival of every human who will ever live. They can run, abandoning their camp and tools, hoping to outpace whatever is stalking them. They can hide, trying to avoid confrontation. Or they can stand their ground, using their intelligence, their tools, and their cooperation to face down a predator that could kill any one of them with ease. In this moment, as they grip their stone tools and form a protective circle around their most vulnerable members, they don't know they're fighting for the future of humanity itself. They only know that giving up isn't an option. The real battle for survival is about to begin. Chapter 2: The Crucible of Evolution. The Hunt for Survival. The tracks tell a story written in mud and fear. As our small band of Homo erectus crouches around the predator prints, their world has suddenly become much smaller, much more dangerous. The older male, let's call him the leader, though leadership back then was earned through survival, not appointed, runs his weathered finger along the edge of one massive paw print. His face tells you everything you need to know. This isn't just any predator. This is something that could end their entire family line in a matter of minutes. But here's what separates your ancestors from every other prey animal on the African savanna. They don't just react with blind fear. Watch their eyes. See how they're communicating without words, sharing information that could mean the difference between life and death. The tracks are fresh, probably from last night. The spacing between prints suggests the predator was moving slowly, deliberately. Hunting. And the direction? It's been circling their camp, studying them, learning their routines. They're not just being hunted. They're being stalked by something intelligent. Now imagine the choice facing them. They desperately need water. Their children are already showing signs of dehydration, their lips cracked, their energy fading. But searching for water means leaving the relative safety of their rocky shelter. It means exposing themselves in open grassland where predators have every advantage. Stay and die of thirst. Leave and risk being torn apart. This is the impossible mathematics of prehistoric survival. Every decision is a calculation between different ways to die. But our ancestors didn't become the dominant species on Earth by accepting impossible choices. They became human by finding a third option. Watch as the group splits into a formation that took thousands of years of evolution to perfect. The strongest adults form a protective perimeter. The women and older children gather the essential tools, those precious stone implements that represent hundreds of hours of careful crafting. The youngest are positioned in the center, shielded by bodies willing to die for them. They're not just moving. They're executing a survival strategy that balances the need for water with the need for protection. And they're doing it through something that no other species had mastered to this degree: cooperation under pressure. The procession begins to move across the savanna, and you can feel the tension in every step. Their eyes constantly scan the horizon. Their ears pick up sounds you'd never notice, the subtle change in insect chatter that signals something large moving through the grass. The way the wind carries scents that speak of danger or opportunity. Every few hundred yards, they stop. Not to rest, but to read the landscape like a book written in survival. That cluster of acacia trees ahead, perfect cover for an ambush or safe shelter. Those scattered bones near a dried riverbed, evidence of a kill site to avoid, or a source of bone marrow if they're desperate enough. This is when you realize something extraordinary about early human intelligence. They weren't just smart enough to make tools. They were smart enough to think like their predators, to anticipate, to plan 3 moves ahead in a deadly game where losing meant extinction. As they crest a small hill, hope flickers to life. In the distance, a thin line of green cuts across the brown landscape. Vegetation that means only one thing: water. Not much, probably just a seasonal stream or a collection of pools, but enough to keep them alive another day. But between them and salvation lies nearly a mile of open grassland. No cover, no protection, just them, their primitive weapons, and whatever might be watching from the tall grass. The leader makes a decision that reveals the depth of early human strategic thinking. Instead of rushing toward the water as desperation might demand, he signals for the group to wait, to observe, to learn. For nearly an hour, they watch that distant green line. They're looking for movement that might betray other predators already claiming the water source. They're studying the wind patterns to understand how their scent might carry. They're calculating the safest route, identifying potential shelter points along the way. This isn't instinct. This is intelligence applied to survival. When they finally begin their approach to the water, they move like a military unit, because in many ways, that's exactly what they are. The first humans were nature's special forces, adapted not just for survival, but for warfare against a world that wanted them dead. The tension builds with every step. The grass around them could hide a dozen predators. Every shadow might conceal death. Every sound might be their last warning before an attack. 50 yards from the water, they freeze. Something is wrong. The leader's hand shoots up in a gesture that instantly stops the entire group. His head tilts, listening to sounds the rest of them can't yet hear. His nostrils flare, catching a scent that makes his muscles tense. Then you hear it too. A low rumbling that seems to come from the earth itself. Not the growl of a predator, but something else. Something that makes the leader's eyes go wide with a different kind of fear. Thunder. But there are no clouds in the sky. It takes a moment for the terrifying realization to hit them and you. That rumbling isn't coming from the sky. It's coming from the ground. From the direction of the water they so desperately need. A stampede. In the prehistoric world, few things were more dangerous than being caught in the path of panicked megafauna. Massive herds of ancient elephants, giant buffalo, prehistoric horses, all capable of trampling a human family into nothing more than scattered bones. But what could cause such a stampede? What could frighten creatures weighing several tons into blind panic? The answer comes in the form of dust clouds rising on the horizon, and with them, a sound that turns your blood to ice. The coordinated calls of a hunting pack. Not just one predator, but many working together to drive their prey into a killing ground. And that killing ground? It's the exact water source our human family is approaching. Now the impossible mathematics of survival becomes even more complex. They need water to live, but the water has become a death trap. They could retreat, but retreating means certain death from dehydration. They could try to wait out the hunt, but that exposed position makes them easy targets for any predator that notices them. Or, they could do something that no other prey species would even consider. They could use the chaos to their advantage. Watch as the leader makes gestures to his family that represent one of the most daring survival strategies in human evolutionary history. Instead of running from the stampede, they're going to follow it. Use the confusion and dust as cover. Strike at the water source while the predators are busy with their larger prey. It's insane. It's desperate. It's exactly the kind of calculated risk-taking that would eventually carry humans to every corner of the earth. As they begin to move toward the chaos instead of away from it, you realize you're witnessing one of the defining moments of human evolution. The moment when our ancestors stopped thinking like prey and started thinking like survivors who would do whatever it took to live another day. The stampede grows louder, the dust clouds thicker, and somewhere in that deadly chaos lies their only chance at survival. The hunt is about to begin. Chapter 3: Legacy of the Survivors. When intelligence conquered fear. The dust cloud is so thick now you can barely see 10 feet ahead. The thunder of hooves creates a wall of sound that seems to shake your very bones. And somewhere in this chaos of panic and predation, our small family of early humans is making a decision that will echo through nearly 2 million years of history. They're not running away from danger. They're running straight into it. The leader moves like a ghost through the swirling dust, his family close behind in single file. Each footstep is calculated, placed in the brief gaps between stampeding animals. One wrong move, one moment of hesitation, and they'll be crushed beneath hoofs the size of dinner plates. But here's what makes this moment extraordinary. They're not just surviving. They're thinking. Even in the middle of life or death chaos, they're processing information, making split-second tactical decisions that reveal just how far human intelligence has evolved. Watch how they use the stampede as camouflage. Their scent is masked by the musk of terrified animals. Their movement is hidden by the dust and confusion. The predators driving this hunt are focused on larger prey. They don't even notice the small band of humans weaving between the legs of giants. This is the birth of something that will define humanity forever. The ability to turn our greatest weakness into our greatest strength. As they near the water source, the scene that unfolds before them is like something from a nightmare. Massive saber-toothed cats coordinate their attack on the edges of the herd, their 8-inch fangs gleaming as they bring down prey 10 times their size. Giant hyenas circle the wounded, their bone-crushing jaws already wet with blood. The water itself runs red with the violence of prehistoric survival. Any sane creature would flee. But our ancestors have moved beyond sanity into something more powerful, calculated desperation. The leader spots their opportunity. While the predators feast on their massive kills, there's a brief window, maybe minutes, maybe seconds, where a small section of the water source is undefended. Not safe, never safe, but accessible. He signals to his family, and what happens next is a masterclass in human cooperation under extreme pressure. The adults form a defensive perimeter while the children drink first, because in the brutal mathematics of survival, the future of the species matters more than individual lives. No other animal prioritizes this way. No other species has developed this level of strategic altruism. As the children desperately gulp the life-giving water, their parents' eyes never stop scanning for threats. Their hands never release their crude weapons. They're simultaneously nurturing and warrior, protector and provider. But the water tastes of more than salvation. It tastes of blood from the kills upstream. It tastes of mud and fear and desperation. And for our ancestors, it tastes like tomorrow, because they've just secured another day of life in a world designed to kill them. The drinking rotation happens with military precision. Children first, then the wounded and elderly, finally the strong adults who can fight longest if needed. This isn't instinct, this is culture. The beginning of values and social structure that will eventually build civilizations. Then, just as they're finishing, the moment every prey animal fears most. Eye contact with a predator. Through the settling dust, a massive saber-toothed cat fixes its yellow gaze on the human family. Its mouth is already stained with blood from its recent kill, but those predatory eyes hold a terrible intelligence. It's calculating whether these strange, upright creatures might make an easy dessert. Time stops. The leader of our human group does something that no other prey species has ever mastered. Instead of running, instead of playing dead, instead of submitting to what seems like inevitable death, he stares back. He meets the gaze of one of nature's most perfect killing machines and refuses to look away. This is the moment when human beings stop being victims of evolution and start becoming its masters. The standoff lasts an eternity that probably measures only seconds. But in those seconds, something fundamental happens. The saber-toothed cat, accustomed to prey that runs or freezes in terror, encounters something new. Something unpredictable. Something that stares back with equal intensity and shows no fear. The predator, already full from its recent kill, makes a calculation. These strange creatures might not be worth the energy, might not be worth the risk of facing something that doesn't behave like normal prey. It turns away. Our ancestors have won their first victory not through strength or speed, but through the sheer force of intelligent defiance. They've looked death in the face and convinced it to blink first. As they retreat from the blood-soaked water source, moving carefully but no longer desperately, something has changed in them. They walk taller. Their movements carry a new confidence. They've discovered something that will become the foundation of human dominance on Earth. They don't have to be the strongest or fastest to survive. They just have to be smarter. But the most remarkable transformation is yet to come. That night, as they huddle around a small fire made from dry grass and animal dung, something extraordinary happens. For the first time, they don't just survive the day's events, they remember them. They replay them. They begin to understand cause and effect in ways that will eventually lead to language, culture, and civilization. The children watch wide-eyed as the adults use gestures and sounds to recreate the day's hunt. They're not just sharing information, they're creating the first stories. The first lessons passed from one generation to the next. The first step toward becoming fully human. These stories around prehistoric fires will evolve into myths, then histories, then sciences. The same intelligence that helped them survive a saber-toothed cat will eventually put humans on the moon. As the fire burns low and our small family prepares for another night of vigilant sleep, you realize something profound. Every human alive today, all 8 billion of us, carries the DNA of survivors like these. The same genes that gave them the courage to stare down predators flow through your veins. The same intelligence that helped them find water in a drought is the intelligence you use to solve problems every day. We exist because they refused to give up, because they turned their greatest vulnerabilities into their greatest strengths, because they looked at a world trying to kill them and decided to fight back with the most powerful weapon evolution has ever created, the human mind. Their legacy isn't just survival, it's the transformation of our entire planet. From those first crude stone tools to the technology you're using to read the story, it's all connected by an unbroken chain of human ingenuity forged in the crucible of prehistoric survival. The next time you face a challenge that seems impossible, remember them. Remember that you carry the genes of creatures who faced down saber-toothed cats and won. Remember that your ancestors survived the ultimate test so that you could have the chance to face your own. The story of human survival is far from over. In fact, we're still writing it every single day. If this journey through prehistoric survival fascinated you, there are countless more stories waiting to be told. From the first humans to control fire, to the great migrations that spread our species across the globe, to the mysterious disappearances that still puzzle scientists today. Hit that subscribe button and join us as we continue exploring the incredible, terrifying, and inspiring story of how we became human. Because understanding where we came from isn't just about history, it's about understanding who we are today and who we might become tomorrow. What prehistoric mystery would you like us to explore next? Let us know in the comments, and remember, every story of human survival is ultimately your story too.